afternoon, as mounting calls for Johannesburg Mayor Gwamanda to resign amid service delivery issues. The Joburg Crisis Alliance held a briefing this morning to update on their plans to have Gwamanda axed. We speak now to the Executive Manager for Local Government at OUTA, and that's Julius Kleynhans. Julius, a very good afternoon to you. Thanks very much for your time. Let's start, if we will, with the 200 rands fixed service charge that the City of Johannesburg has recently decided to impose. It was a council decision, wasn't it?
There was. Thanks, Vuyo. There wasn't proper public participation on the surcharge. And, we also have evidence on all the public participation, basically the presentations that they've had, and it wasn't mentioned in any of these. So this was passed through their budget process, and people didn't really know about this. So sadly, a lot of people were caught off guard on their new bills, especially when they were to pay and go buy prepaid electricity. That this 230 rand, which basically includes VAT, was deducted before they got any units. And by the way, those units also increased in the cost. So it's very sad, but as you've rightfully said, it was the current council, this coalition government, that has passed that specific surcharge, which has negative consequences, especially on the poor people in Joburg.
And the point is, like, what I'm trying to ask is, for a decision that was made by council, of course, with a mayor at the helm, who, if we properly and thoroughly examine the composition of the council, really has very little power. I mean, there are major blocks there. Your ANC is a big party there, and so are a host of other parties who have more influence than he and the other two members of his political party. So why single him out? It does look like he is a soft target and being made a scapegoat for decisions essentially taken by other people more powerful and which have more representation in that council than him.
Very good point. And so we're not only calling for the mayor, we're also asking for the whole mayoral committee to be dissolved. And as you've rightfully said, this is a coalition government in the City of Johannesburg. So you've got big parties like the ANC, the EFF, and all these being in a coalition. So they're part of the decision making. And I think that's very important for residents and businesses to understand. It's not just the mayor, but it's actually the whole committee that supports the mayor and those who vote in favor of decisions that are irrational within the city. So we've got local elections coming up in 2 years from now, and I think this is the time that we start demanding responsible political individuals taking the leadership in the city, and we need real good, seasoned leadership that's transparent and it's credible to take on the actions we need in the City of Johannesburg. People with a clear plan that business and individuals would like to actually support and be transparent on that. I think just to close on that remark of the political elements being such a great issue, we see the GNU taking action now, and it's on a national and a provincial level, but we don't really see it coming through to local level yet. So hopefully we start seeing political parties putting their ideologies aside, playing each other at their strengths, and actually start serving the people of the city.
Well, speaking of coalitions and the political elements, you call them, I mean, your alliance is comprised of several organizations, and among those organizations are actually foundations that are political in nature. They were formed and named after, in honor of and after several struggle stalwarts. And we've seen them in the past taking positions that have everything to do with the ANC. For example, Isn't that what, in other words, won't that take away from what you believe, and other people may too, is a good civil society organizations, but you cannot escape the fact that some of these foundations are in fact very heavily politically aligned, and they do tackle very partisan issues that relate to, in particular, the ANC.
And I get that, and I think that is also the opportunity we see as this coalition, because yes, there are foundations that are very strong ANC aligned, and they are calling out the ANC because of they're letting the people down. I think what's really important is to understand that there's no ideology, no political ideology whatsoever when it comes to local government. Local government has been developed to provide basic services and create infrastructure and ability for economic growth. It's where we live and stay. It's where we go to work. It's where our kids go to school. And I think that's what's very important here. So we need to call out political elements for what it is. And I'm saying it's political elements because, we don't really trust the politics of the day. Doesn't matter what coalition comes into power. So it doesn't matter who's in power. We need clear division of power between the politicians and the administration, the people who are supposed to do the work. And there should be a bit more consistency and continuity in them being able to deliver services. But we really need accountability and a civil society to strengthen ourselves. And just to lastly, with this Joburg Crisis Alliance, yes, there's different foundations, different residents associations, organizations, all with the best interests of City of Johannesburg at heart. What we all have in common is electricity. We all need it. We need sustainable water and clean water supply. We need roads and infrastructure that works. And this is the beauty of how municipalities can bring people together. Instead of listening to a political party saying how we differ and we don't look alike, there's a lot of commonality when it comes to local government, and that's what we see in this alliance.
Yeah, and I like your mention of the word consistency, because it is as much about this mayor as it will be or should be about the next mayor. If a Dada Morero, takes over from a Gwamanda, tomorrow, will all of you apply the same criteria, the same standards? Will you adopt the same attitude that you have adopted towards this man in the event we are seeing similar failure? And the question really is whether you not only are alive to that fact, but you are having those conversations among yourselves.
It's very exciting to actually back what you're saying, because people are really fed up with bad services within the city of Johannesburg. As an economy, we cannot allow for it to fail, and it's very dismal at the moment. So I think we are all taking the position of, doesn't matter who's in power, they need to be seasoned leaders who are accountable and transparent. We need ethical leadership. We need the professionalization of the public service. We need the protection of the good people, councillors and city officials especially, to be able to do their jobs. And when it comes to the consistency, a municipality shouldn't come to a halt when there's a mayoral change. And that's the big issue we're sitting with. It shows you the political influence in local government, and it should not be like that. So as organized civil society, and this is where we need to really step up, we need to take hands as residents and businesses within the city. Doesn't matter which organization you can become part of, you need to become part of one and start allowing to spend your time and getting involved in these matters so that we can have oversight on, doesn't matter who's in power, and start being part of the solution, because we have to turn the tide and the ship of the city, because it's very doom and gloom at the moment. But if we've got concrete plans and a goal that we want to achieve as a collective, then I'm sure business and civil society will become part of the solution and back any mayor or leader that is willing to be backed in this space.
Julius Kleynhans, thanks very much for your time. He is, of course, from the organization Outer, part of that alliance that is calling for the resignation of the mayor of Johannesburg. And as you've heard him, they are extending that to the entire council. We'll see, of course, what comes out of that demand. They're also planning a protest this coming weekend to put more pressure on the council. Up next.